It is Monday, June 7th, 2021, and this is the iPhoneography podcast. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the show, and this is our WWDC version because WWDC was earlier today, and Dave and I are going to geek out about it and tell you what we've learned and discovered from it. How are you, Dave?
Doing good, great. We have your copious notes from DubDub of all the features. Well, all the features they talked about. I shouldn't say all the features because there are always those screens that pop up.
Yeah.
That are like, oh, and by the way, we just talked 10 minutes about this one thing, but boom, here is a screen that shows 15 other things that we didn't talk about. But here's a little icon that's up there for 3 seconds just so you can look at it.
Yeah. So for those of you listening to this show, we are trying to do a video version for the YouTubes and see how it goes. Now, this is the alpha version, and if it doesn't make it to the airwaves, then it didn't work. But if it does make it, then, we did something right. So before we get started, I just wanted to say a couple things here, a couple of quick little notes that I have. First, I want to thank you, Dave, and our good friend Matt Hoffman for covering me on the last show. There was some things going on that are, over and done with now, with the loss of some family members and stuff. And hopefully we're back on track and can stay on track. I also wanted to just clarify a comment I made during a show in the past about, we were talking about Pro Raw, and I had said that portrait mode can be done in Pro Raw, and that is not true because it uses 2 cameras and all this other stuff that goes on with portrait mode. It cannot be done in Pro Raw. So if anybody went and tried it and was wondering what happened, why didn't it shoot in Pro Raw? Sorry, my bad. But just wanted to clarify that. The last thing to mention here before we get started is we were mentioned on a website called Whelp Magazine, and our show was one of the top 25, I think it was, iPhone podcasts of 2021. So I thought that was pretty good. That was nice of them to throw us on the list, and the list itself was kind of, not sure how much credibility it holds because some of the shows on there don't even exist anymore. And, but I mean, just the same with all the people who would have eyeballs on that list. It's nice to have some recognition on there, and, we'll take it, right?
Exactly. Just because, if anyone says you're doing a good job, you never say, well, no, thank you. Thank you for that. Right. Yes. You noticed us because there are, hundreds of thousands of podcasts out there.
Oh, yeah.
And there's hundreds of thousands of iPhone, not necessarily iPhone photography. There's still not a lot of those, but there's still hundreds or if not thousands of iPhone podcasts and how to use iPhones. And we notice is always a good thing.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So we'll take it. So thank you, Whelp Magazine, for that. In fact, I'll put a link to that in the show notes so you can check out the whole list and see what else is on there. Okay, so Dave, WWDC. It was about an hour and 45 minutes or so, and it was just so packed full of stuff that I could barely keep my notes caught up to it.
And I would say this, I know even pre-pandemic, it was always a tightly run ship.
Yes.
The keynote. It was always, the live thing was always, rehearse, which makes sense because that's how you should be handling a presentation, even if you're not almost a trillion, or probably now well over $1 trillion company.
2 trillion, actually, yeah.
2 trillion, yeah. But you still want to over-rehearse and get to know this and have everything run as smooth. But the way that it started with Tim walking out in the theater, so this was not him on the roof. This was not him doing a Mission Impossible, stealing his own chip. This was him, admittedly, in front of a bunch of memojis.
Yeah.
But it was close to a beginning that we would see from a normal keynote.
Yes. Yes.
And
now, did he say when he came out, did he say the proverbial good morning? I don't recall hearing that, but maybe he did.
I'm trying to remember, at least when we got to real Tim Cook and not fake Tim Cook.
Yeah.
In the little video ahead of time.
Yeah.
But and also, like you said, it was an hour 45 minutes. And if you look at if you look at what Apple did last year, and you look at what they did earlier this year, those were hour-long events. They were tight, hour-long TV shows.
Yeah.
This was a little more rambling and a little closer to traditional keynotes in front of a live audience.
Yeah. They had a lot of stuff to show.
Yeah, they did. They did.
Yeah.
So I can almost see fall when they announced, or I can see, the heavy rumor was they're going to come out with new, Mac Pros.
Yeah, new
16,
hardware.
14-inch Mac. Yeah, there was no hardware.
No.
Which it's a developers conference. I can see that. Plus, for them to announce this isn't, if this is M1X hardware, the next version, or even like a version and a half more, where it's like, well, we increased the cores, but the basic architecture is the same, or just because there are major production issues going on, they just may not be able. They may said, okay, when they went to their chip founder for TSMC and said, we need 50 million chips for the iPhone, and we need this many for the Mac. They said, we can't do both. Physically, it's impossible. Which one do you want? And of course, they're going to say iPhone because that's where the money is. So they may have to push it back.
Yeah, they probably don't want to, overpromise and underdeliver by any means. So,
right.
Okay, so we're going to go through everything. We will elaborate on things that are camera related or photography related, and just basically kind of mention a lot of the other things, or we'll try to mention as many as we can here that we saw. So on iOS, the first thing they talked about was FaceTime, and in FaceTime, they're going to incorporate spatial audio. So that'll work if you have the AirPods Pro or the AirPods Max, and or Pro Max, or whatever those big ones are called.
Yeah.
Voice isolation, which was good because it'll isolate voice for you if you're basically work like hearing aids, and you can also switch it to wide spectrum. So if you're watching FaceTime on a big iMac or something like that, you can have it so that it broadcasts the sound nice and wide.
Now, one thing I'm hoping is they will bring that to video recording through the camera app, where if you want to have it where, I only want to hear, it's like if you want to have if you're taking a picture of a landscape, you don't want to focus on a tree.
Yeah.
But if you want to take a picture of a person, you don't want to focus on all the trees around it.
Right.
It'd be nice to have, hey, I'm videoing a person, or I'm videoing a event, and I only want to have my audio focus on that little event. Then you can do that.
Mm-hmm.
Now, whether they do that or not, I don't know. Or you want to say, okay, I'm doing a concert, let's say, and you want to have the crowd noise included. You want to, or a sporting event, you want to hear the crowd going around. But I would love it if that voice isolation, the demo they had where their kid said, oh yeah, she wanted a leaf blower for her birthday, and the kid's coming in the house with the leaf blower, and then all of a sudden it's like, you don't hear it. Like,
that was pretty impressive.
Yeah, that was, I hate to say, that was almost too impressive. It worked almost too good, but it'd be great if it works. If something you could say, well, I want to isolate on, a way you can isolate on what you're taking a video of. You can have that as a selection somewhere, say, voice isolation or sound isolation for video. That would be great. And if this was a way to test it out,
I would think
make sure it works.
I would think that if if they can make it so that you can hear things that way, they should be able to make it so that it could be broadcast or recorded that way. Right. So, and hopefully it's not just like an iPhone 13 thing. I mean, it should be able to be done, through software.
I'm hoping it's a 12 and 13.
Yeah.
It may be a 12 and 13 only, just because of the hardware, the computing hardware needed to actually do that. That's pretty intensive. So, the 11 and especially the 10 and 10S may not have and for all we know, the way Apple works is they will say, oh, we want this feature in the camera, or we want this feature here. Oh, we'll put a little bit on the chip that will specifically work on making sure this works.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like when they came out with the iMac Pro, they had a custom chip to handle the video.
Oh, yeah.
So, to get the video, to get that 6K video with the Vexer high, they had to make their own chip to have that work. So this may be, we can only do for, let's say, the M1 iPad Pro, the M1 iMacs, MacBooks, MacBook Air, and the iPhone 12 and 13, because they're the only ones with the horsepower that could actually do that well without choking the rest of the system.
Yeah, that could be. Another thing they mentioned was video grid view. So it's basically like everybody's got an even spot of real estate on the screen, as opposed to, you could change it to have whoever's speaking up front and everybody else kind of in behind. Here's a big one here: portrait mode. Now yeah, go ahead, because you come up with a thought on this.
Well, it's just a matter of, and this is something that I think you mentioned a few weeks ago about video.
Yeah, my prediction. Yeah. My prediction.
Yep. So I could see that again. Like the heavy rumor for the next iPhone is all the cameras will be not just optically, but sensor stabilized. Yeah. And it was just a matter of they wanted to make sure that would work. That's why only the telephoto on the Macs has it now, because they know that would be a lower volume, and they can make sure it would work without
it's actually the wide on the Pro Max.
Oh, is it the wide
censorship?
Yeah. I thought it. Okay. I thought it was the telephoto. I'm sorry, but it's only one of them.
Yeah, it's only one.
It's not all of them. So, and it's only one of them on the higher end models.
Yeah, pros,
you're not getting the volume, right? So you're not getting the volume. So I could see this coming out. You're basically going to have. It's going to be out in the hands. I think it's today.
Yeah, developers get it today.
It's out now. The developers got it now, and you can go on YouTube by the time we release the podcast and upload to YouTube. You can actually go and check, iOS 15 and see people testing and playing with it and trying the different features. So again, Apple has their own internal testing, obviously, but nothing like getting in the hands of a few thousands or tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of people out in the wild doing their own thing, where if you're testing, you're normally, I'm going to do this and I'm going to test this way, I'm going to do, but you're not doing it and going to break it as much normally. Yeah. So that's why it's, of course, beta testing. So stuff can work. So I could then see them say, again, I could see this being a 12 and 13 only thing. Again, for horsepower reasons, even though Zoom can do blurred backgrounds, Teams can do blurred backgrounds, Skype can do blurred backgrounds, but for a lot of times, those blurred backgrounds look crappy.
Yeah, they're not exactly done it nearly as well as portrait mode for sure. Yeah. No. So so if portrait mode comes out as a video camera feature in the 13, and who knows, maybe like you say on the 12 Pro line, or even as far down as the 12, that would be really cool. So next we got FaceTime links. So you can do a FaceTime call, and it has to be initiated from an iPhone or like from an Apple device. But you can join a FaceTime call on Android or Windows through the browser. So that's kind of cool.
Yeah. And you can also schedule calls.
Yeah.
which is nice. So if you want to have a call at 8 p.m., you can schedule a call at 8 p.m. and use the calendar to have people remind it, not just, oh, by the way, are you available now?
Yeah,
So,
that's right.
That's nice. The one thing that I don't like, and I don't know if they're doing this for legal reasons. I'm assuming it's legal reasons. There's no way to record.
Right. Yeah. I'm sure it's more privacy than it is anything.
Well, yeah. When I meant privacy legal, also because then you don't run into issues in certain countries where, even it like we're doing this through Zoom, and Zoom, when you start to record, not only is there a little record button on top, there's an audio. This is now being recorded, and you have to approve. But you can see certain countries where, or not only the European Union, I'm talking more specifically China, Russia, where they're like, oh, you're recording something on your server in your country. We want access to it. And and then going to Apple and saying, yes, we found a recording that was started in the US that's on a server in the US, but it was from someone in China. Therefore, we want access to this or else.
Yeah.
So Apple's just like, we don't want to handle any of that mess.
Yeah. I mean, that's the safe way to go. That's for sure.
Yeah. Even though if it was available or a way to record, that would, I mean, I could see people using that instead of definitely Skype, maybe Zoom, for podcast recordings or just general things you want to record for later.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, if they put any time and effort into recording on FaceTime, it would probably be done very well, I would imagine.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So share play, listen to music together, watch together, screen sharing, all that is coming to FaceTime in iOS 15. And that's kind of cool. I mean, I don't know if it's something that I would use so much, but, hey, if my brother and I wanted to watch a hockey game together, he's like 30 miles away from me. Why not start a FaceTime conversation where we can watch the game on the screen and have, each other's pictures in the corner where we can trash talk each other. That would be pretty cool. And, there's people that want to, like, especially, in this day and age, people that want to go to movies together and can't. They want to get together and watch a TV show, but they can't. But this will allow that to happen, virtually, albeit. But I think it's a really nice feature.
Oh, no. It's nice, and there's little touches like if one person pauses, everyone pauses.
Yeah, everything is in real time.
At least for Apple TV. At least for Apple, that's Apple TV, Apple Music.
Oh, yeah. Oh, okay.
Now, for Apple Music, you can start to listen to it, but if you don't subscribe to Apple Music, you will be said, oh, are you interested in a 7-day free trial? You aren't? Well, you can't use this then.
Yeah.
Same thing with Apple TV. If you're not already subscribed to it, or you don't want to do so, I don't know how that'll work where Apple TV and Apple Music. I think Apple Music is a lot more universal, but Apple TV is not universal just because of content rights.
You can get Apple Music on Android phones. So I'm
thinking country related too.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know if Apple TV is available in Europe. In some places in Europe.
Yeah.
I said, do we have the rights, and who has the rights to this versus that? And that's a giant mess. But no, I like the idea. I don't see me ever using it, but it's a nice little thing.
Yeah, sure it is. So moving on to messages, here's something interesting. Okay, so everybody shares photos through messages, like through iMessage. And they're now going to introduce photo stacks and collages. So if you send, say, 5 or 6 pictures from an event that you were at with other people, you can send pictures to those other people in the form of a stack or a collage. And is it the collage, Dave, where you can actually just swipe through it?
No, that's a stack.
Way, or that's the stack?
The stack. Okay. That's stack. The stack literally looks like a disheveled pile of photos on a desk.
Okay.
And you can just kind of swipe through it and they'll carousel through.
Okay, right.
Yeah, and the collage is more of almost like a bulletin board.
Oh, okay. All right.
Almost like a bulletin board.
So that's kind of cool. And when you share photos, there's a new section that's going to be called shared with you, and or let's see, shared with you appears in other places like photos. Okay, so shared with you, I mean, I guess that could include when somebody shares a song through Apple Music or or photos or whatever. But there will be a section. I guess it's in the let's see, would it be?
It's in an album. It's in the albums. So
in the album section. Okay,
it's in the album. Now that's also true with if someone shares a news story from Apple News.
Oh yeah,
you can pin it and then go in the Apple News, and they'll say, "Oh, this was shared with you." So
right.
It not only is it cross devices, the idea is kind of across programs. Yeah. So all these little programs are having shared with you sections that are, oh, I got this through a message, or I got this another way, and it's shared with, and so you don't have to go back. Nice thing is, like, oh, Greg shared with me those photos from that. Well, I don't have to go back to the message. I go right to photos. Photos and an album, and it's right there, which makes it a lot easier to find.
Yeah. So that's pretty cool, and that covers my next point, which was pin shared content. So so you could pin, like you say, a news story or something, and then it shows up in Apple News. Bang, there it is. So notifications. Notification summary, which is just another way of gathering together notifications. There's a do not disturb status available in messages, and a feature called focus. So it's do not disturb. So if you're at work, you can set it for work, and I guess you can have it set so that only certain people can get through to your phone, like your boss maybe, or you could have it set for family. There's different features in that where I think it's really cool, and I don't know why they didn't incorporate this a lot sooner, but it's going to be pretty cool. Here's one that's. Oh, go ahead. Were you going to say something there?
I was saying, well, I think they didn't do it because they wanted it to work everywhere. So if you do set your, I want this only to be my family time, or that way all your work stuff's gone. Well, that's your iMac, your MacBook, your phone, and your watch are all set at the same focus.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So it's across devices. So I think that's why it wasn't done before, is they wanted to work seamlessly behind the scenes, so you don't have to think, well, I'm setting or let's say for work, you're saying your let's say your phone at work, but then you're getting messages on your watch. Or you would have to say, oh, I set that there, and I'm going to have to set it here, and I'm going to have to set it here, and then I'm going to have to unset it here. And so you set it one place, like if you set it on your watch, it sets it everywhere. So I think they wanted to make sure behind the scenes work before they rolled it out.
Oh yeah. Well, that makes good sense. So the next thing is really cool. It's live text. You can capture text from photos. So you could take a picture of, like a whiteboard is the example they used in the keynote, where it would recognize all that text. Well, okay, let me back up. You take a picture of it, and then you turn on this button called live text right in the camera app, and it will recognize and read the text, and then you can actually drag your finger across to highlight some text, and then you can copy that text and paste it into a note or an email or whatever. I thought that was just brilliant. And, and if you took a picture of, say, a storefront and there was a phone number on it, it would pick up realize that that's a phone number, and it would create a live link from that phone number where you can tap on it and be given the opportunity to call that number. So, I mean, that is just really cool.
No, and it'll work on photos you already took.
Yeah. You can go back in your archives.
I know Google has a product called Lens, which is similar, but I don't know if that works on and honestly, this is just me being ignorant of a lot of Android stuff. I don't know if it works on old photos or if you have to use it only on the new stuff.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know, but I like the fact that you can go, wait a minute, we that restaurant we were at. Oh, that's right. We took a picture of the menu. Mm-hmm. So here we go. Look for menu. Look, oh, there it is right there. There's the menu, and there's the phone number, there's the website, or there's the food. So we can, we'll just highlight this and put this in a note. So when we call a message or something, a delivery, it's like, here, I want this, and here's this, and here's this, instead of that way it's text instead of photo, which is nice.
Yeah. So that's pretty cool. The third thing in live text, it was visual lookup. So you can take a picture of something and it'll tell you what it is you took a picture of. Like if you put a coffee cup and took a picture of that coffee cup, it'll say, it'll label it or whatever as a coffee cup. Isn't that how it works? Yeah.
Right. So and that actually, I believe came originally from the accessibilities group. Yeah. Because they were being told by people who are low vision, they want to take a selfie. And we're like, well, just because I can't see or my vision's low, I want to take a selfie and send it to my kids or to other people. Or so they could do things like, okay, move to the left, you're to the right, or like you're doing photo. There's a photo in this photo. Now, this already exists under accessibility that you can have it, but it only works, I think, on the 11, but definitely the 12, where it will describe to you verbally what's in the photo. Oh, okay. A person wearing a red coat is off to the left of the picture.
Yeah, so I'll have to look and see if that's in there.
Yeah.
So that's pretty cool. Spotlight, it will include photos in your search. So if you search for, say, a place like Pittsburgh, and if I was in Pittsburgh at some point in time, it'll show me pictures that I took in Pittsburgh, blue car or whatever. It'll show you pictures of a blue car that you may have taken. So that's kind of cool. Now moving to photos itself, one of the things that some of the developers that are on the beta have already put out is images or screenshots of the metadata that appears in pictures that you've taken, and it'll even show if it was taken with a third-party camera app. So the one that I saw, it said created with Halide or something like that. So I thought that was really cool. And then
agreed. That is really nice, and that'll be a big help for in terms, especially for advanced editors.
Yeah,
that'll make a big difference.
Yeah, for sure. So the camera itself, you added a couple of things here that I missed. Improved panorama.
Right. And this was actually off of Apple's website. Again, a lot of times it's really hard to keep track of what's everything going on. So if you're interested, I don't want to say if you have time, because no one has time, but if you have the inclination, you can download the developers app and actually look at the sessions that are happening this whole week, because the keynote is what makes the headlines, but the real work starts Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, when they have the sessions and the engineers talk about, okay, well, this is this feature here. And that's when you start seeing things, extra things pop out, including places on the website. Like they said, it improved panorama where there will be less distortion, which, admittedly, they're not going to come out and say, hey, we changed the panorama and it sucks.
Yeah.
But the fact they actually pointed it out, that they try to improve it, that sounds like a software thing and an AI thing. Machine learning AI trying to make that better. And if you have a phone that when you're taking pictures have the quick take, where you just kind of press and go to the right to start a video immediately. Now, if you push up, you can zoom in. And if you go down, if you pull down, you can zoom out. So you don't have to be stuck where you're starting when you're doing a quick video, which is a nice little feature. Cool.
Yeah, because I mean, if you're out chasing your dogs around the backyard, you want to just all of a sudden start a video, and
Yeah.
and if they're a bit of a distance away, bang, you could just over and up,
Vroom.
and you've got
Right.
them zoomed in, and yeah, that would work
Yeah.
really well.
Or I could see people at sporting events with their kids doing that too.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, so part of the Photos app, getting back to photos again, is the memories section. Now, this has
Mm-hmm.
always been one of my favorite features, and it's just going to get better because they're adding Apple Music, where you can put Apple Music in memories,
Right.
not just the supplied selection of tunes that are in there. So, gosh, this tells me that they found some way of making a deal with all hundreds and thousands of artists that are on Apple Music that you can use their music in a video. Because what do people do with these videos? They make Instagram stories out of them, or they share them on
Right.
on Facebook or Twitter. So
Right.
I'll be curious to see how that works.
And I'll be curious to see how quickly the takedown notices start.
Yeah.
Not the bots, the bots.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Not necessarily the artists going out of their way to take them down, but
right.
they run these automated programs to see. I was like, oh, that's a piece of music. Well, do you have the rights to it? Well, we don't care if you have the rights to it or not. It's getting taken down.
Yeah, like maybe there's a snippet of code in the memory once you've exported it that says this is made in Apple Memories with Apple Music or something. I don't know.
That would be nice. That would be nice.
That'd be something I'll be kind of keeping an ear out for sure.
Yeah.
Memories will be interactive, so you can if while you're watching a memory or creating a memory, I guess maybe it's watching it too. You can pause it, and the music will still play. But if you see an image or a video, you want to pause it, you can just put your thumb on it and pause it. And then when you let go, the video carries on, and then you eventually catch up to be in time with the music again. Like it picks up certain beats, I guess, of the song. So that's kind of cool. You can edit the looks of photos in a memory, where you can say you want to make a photo black and white. It doesn't just turn it black and white like a filter. It uses machine learning and AI to almost like you're taking the photo all over again, to examine all the different areas of the image and optimize them to be to look the best it can in that black and white. So that's kind of cool. And the last thing in memories is related memories. You kind of get a little bit of that now, but I think it's going to be even better in iOS 15, where say Dave and I are at a convention somewhere, and let's go way out there, Dave. You and I are at an old we're at an old WWDC where you can actually go and be on campus. You go to a lab or whatever, a session on the camera, and I go to a different session on the video camera, and then we're taking pictures and all this stuff of the goings on. Now, 2 months down the road, after it's all over, these memories pop up in our phone, and we've shared those pictures with each other. A related memory could be that when I look at my phone, I see this related memory that Dave had from the camera session, and I can go and look at that. And you can look at the video session that I shared pictures with you about. So I guess, it's kind of a convoluted analogy, but that's kind of how I think it's going to work.
Oh, no. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see everything getting flushed out. And, the memories are a nice feature, and I don't think enough people know about them either. So it was not so nice that they pointed it out. It's like, hey, we have this thing, and hopefully people are like, wow, I had no idea I could do that. Basically do a little video slideshow that makes it easy to share.
Yeah. And like I say, it's one of my favorite features of the Photos app. I use it a fair bit. So moving on to wallet, identity cards, that's kind of plain and simple. Eventually you're going to have all your information in one card or whatever. Weather's going to get a new design. New graphics, new animations, and full screen weather apps. That's kind of cool. The way they showed it, it looked like the whole screen on your phone was a weather map, and you could see the radar on there. One thing that I saw somebody mention on Twitter was the the new animations, on the weather app, it shows if you're having a thunderstorm, it'll show little lightning bolts or whatever. But apparently the rain will actually, I think it's going to look like it's actually hitting the inside of a window or something.
Oh, wow.
Or something like that.
Right.
My mind's so boggled from everything, but it's going to be kind of cool.
Yeah, and I think they're going to add some more information. They said they're going to make not just rain, but it's what type of rain are you having, and all these different little variations and details, which that's an Apple thing.
Yeah, and you could bet that they've got a lot of stuff from Dark Sky incorporated into this because they purchased Dark Sky, about a year or two ago. And, finally seeing some of the fruits of that acquisition come out. Maps is going to be pretty cool. They'll have an interactive globe, and I liken this to Google Earth, where as soon as you open Google Earth, you see a globe or whatever, and you want to go someplace on there, you just tap it and it'll start zooming into it. So I think this is going to behave much the same way. Cities will have new details like elevation and things like that. So let's say you're in San Francisco and you're looking at Lombard Street, which is at the top of a hill, it zigzags down. You'll be able to see the elevation change, especially like in a 3D view. It's going to be really sweet. Nighttime mode.
I would say for the elevation mode, I can see that being a big help if you're trying to get a lay of the land of a city. Just because I know there's one area around town, the inside of Pittsburgh, it's the Beachview neighborhood. And if you look at it from without elevation, it looks like a perfectly, as well as you can get, a nice grid, just regular intersections and nice perpendicular lines and parallel lines, until you're actually there and you realize that the difference between one street and one block over could be 20 to 30 feet. Because of the elevation. And you're like, oh, I thought I could easily walk from here to here. And when you look at the elevation, you're like, oh no, that's an incredibly steep hill it's November. So no, I'm not going to go that way because there's a little bit there's snow called for it and I can't do that. So that would be a big help.
For sure. What was next? Nighttime mode with glow. So if there's like a building that has it'll I don't know if it's actual lights from an actual building or it's just animation they put in there to emphasize the fact that it's a building. They'll have lights that kind of shine on the building or whatever. I wasn't familiar with the scene that they showed, but I'm assuming it was in San Francisco and the building that they showed in the keynote. But it's just going to be really cool. It's going to be cartoonish looking, I guess. But the detail that's going to be in it is really, really neat. And unfortunately, it's only going to be in select cities. So like, I don't know, probably 8 to 10 cities, and then roll out, over time as it goes. But it's going to be really neat. And the navigation is going to be much cleaner and more detailed. Like it's going to show, like if you're going down a freeway and you're going to be going under an overpass, it'll actually show the little arrow that you're following will actually disappear under there and then come out the other side, things like that. So it's going to be really cool. AirPods Pro, conversation boost. It's going to be like hearing aids. I think we kind of mentioned that earlier with FaceTime, but it's going to be part of the AirPods Pro themselves. And so if you're sitting at a table in a restaurant and you're kind of hard of hearing or whatever, but you got these things in, it will actually focus on the voice of the waiter or the waitress at your table, which is kind of cool. It'll announce notifications. So when you get a text message or a phone call, it'll say text message from Dave Podnar or something like that. And it'll have spatial audio is going to be in tvOS. So if you have an Apple TV 4K, I think is it the first gen or second gen 4K? I'm not sure which one. It'll have spatial audio so that if you got up and walked away from the TV, the sound is going to go, in that direction through the AirPods Pro. So kind of cool. I don't have AirPods Pro, so I probably won't notice it.
Yeah, I don't either. But honestly, if you have a little bit of an issue hearing, and AirPods Pro are not cheap, but they are still significantly cheaper than hearing aids.
Yes, that's true. Yeah, for sure.
I actually had a coworker who had to get hearing aids recently, and she actually went to Costco because it was cheaper to go Costco without insurance than to go to a regular place with her insurance. And they were still, I think, a couple $1,000s at least.
Yeah. Sounds about the same up here too.
Yeah.
Yeah. So next they talked about iPad OS. Now I don't have an iPad. Your wife Ruth has one, Dave. So some of this stuff you'll be able to see it when it comes out. Widgets are finally coming to iPad. So I don't know if Ruth uses widgets on her iPhone.
Not a lot, anything, honestly. But not a lot, to be honest. But I'm excited about widgets now, not just being stuck in the day view, which is on the left side of the screen, but you can place it anywhere, and larger widgets. And it'd be nice if that way you could because I know there's widgets for package delivery.
Yeah.
A UPS or FedEx type thing that you don't have to open up the app or go to the website or go to it's right there on my screen. Boom, right there. So you can actually get you can actually have notification like a dashboard without having to, here, I'll go to my text message and then I can click on the link they sent me and then go to the website and see where it is, but just have it on the widget right there is nice.
Yeah, that's going to be cool. Yeah. So there's new widgets for Game Center and Find My. I'm sure these are going to be in iOS 15 as well for the iPhones. Yeah. But one thing that's missing from the iPad right now is the app library. And that's going to be available as well as putting the app library, or a section of it, I guess, right in the dock. So I imagine that's going to make finding apps a lot easier. The multitasking is going to be amped up quite a bit. Now, right now, as far as I could tell, multitasking on an iPad is basically split window or split view, where you can work in one side or the other. But it's going to make
it's a major pain to get into. It is a pain to get into, and it's kind of hidden all the machinations you have to do with your fingers. So this will make it much easier. It looks like. And
you'll be able to interact between the two sides. Is that correct?
Right.
Yeah. So that's going to be huge. I mean, if you're, just for example, if you're working on a keynote presentation, you could have that open on one side, and you can have your photos open on the other side, and you could just drag a photo over into the keynote. Oh, it's going to be a lot, a big time saver for a lot of people. And it'll, increase productivity immensely. Notes, they went into a few things on notes, but the things that kind of stuck out in my head was you could put mentions in notes. So Dave and I have a shared note for our show notes here, so that if he adds something, I get a notification that he's added it, but I don't know what it is or anything else. But if he puts my name in there, mentions my name in there, similar to in an iMessage, where you can say you're in a group text with a bunch of people, you want to notify a single person, then you can write their name, it highlights in blue, and then they're going to get a notification that they're mentioned in that conversation. So I'm sure this will work pretty much the same way.
Which is nice.
And they're going to add tags to notes, so you can start tagging things and whatnot. Everybody probably has a pretty good idea how that works. And quick note. So if you have an iPad and you got an Apple Pencil, and I'm sure it'll probably work without the pencil, but you can drag up from the bottom corner and it'll automatically start a new note. And you can, put what you want in there and then just drag it back down or swipe it back down towards the corner and it disappears, but it's in your notes. If you open the Notes app, bang, it's there. So that's kind of a neat thing. Translate is going to be system wide, because it's going to be on the iPad. And when I say system wide, I mean you can highlight text and then I guess there's an option where you can just translate it, kind of like the definitions, the dictionary used on the Mac, right? You can highlight a word and then hit look up or whatever, and it'll look up the definition. So translate will work the same way.
Yeah, and that'll be nice because that, as far as I know, that's going to be on device. So it won't be a matter of highlight. It'll go out to a server somewhere, translate, and get back to you. It'll be on device, which is going to be nice.
Yeah.
Which would be
that'll be cool. Nice. The next thing they covered was privacy. As everybody should know by now, with iOS 14.5, Apple introduced app tracking transparency, where you can, if you open an app like Facebook, for instance, you'll get a notification that Facebook wants to be able to track you across other apps and websites and blah, blah, blah. Facebook is what Facebook is, but you can turn that off, or you can disallow it, or you can allow it. When this first came out, it was an overwhelming 96% of the people that got these notifications would not allow it. And this is only going to get even better in iOS 15 because you've got mail privacy protection, where the sender will not know if and when you even open that email. Whereas, as it is now, like I know with MailChimp, for instance, when people send out newsletters, they could see who opened who opened the newsletter and stuff like that. So I imagine this is all going to put a stop to that.
I must say that, and being able to use with the iCloud fake account. I don't want to call it fake account, but temporary accounts. So you're not giving out your real email. You're giving out a alias email that then gets forwarded to you. So it's, if you want to keep your email, whatever at whatever you want, but, I don't want to give this. They're requiring an email for me to enter this contest or to do this. Well, I don't want to give away my regular email. I'm going to give away this fake one.
Yeah. Kind of like signing in with
ways
Apple.
To track it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's nice. That is nice.
Yeah. And they're going to have app privacy reports. Is that's in the App Store? Is it?
That's where it is now.
Yeah. Yeah. But so I'm not sure how that's going to be.
I don't know if there's going to be a separate part that every app will have to have a link somehow and not just in the App Store. But when you open it, that'd be nice, but we'll see how that kind of is successful to get.
Yeah. So then we move on to Siri. Now, this is probably going to be one of Marc's favorites. Marc Sadowski from Tiny Shutter. He has a real love-hate relationship with Siri, more hate than love.
Yeah, true.
But it's going to be on-device speech recognition. So, as it is now, when you use Siri, you invoke the assistant by saying those magic words, and then it goes to an Apple server. It gets processed, and then the answer comes back. Now it's going to be on device, and it's going to be faster, and you could do it offline, which is good. So, if you want to tell Siri to turn on airplane mode, it could turn it on. That means you're disconnected from everything. But then if you want to go back to Wi-Fi or whatever, you can tell it to put on Wi-Fi and it'll do that. And like I say, it's all on device processing. So it's going to be, I think, a big improvement. Yeah. And in the demo, it was pretty snappy.
Yeah. Now, I tell you one thing that I've used Siri for recently was, besides the normal, set a timer for cooking, turning on the flashlight.
Ah, yeah.
So we were leaving somewhere at night, and the street lights weren't that well open, and trying to walk up the sidewalk. And, immediately it unlocked the phone and hit the button, but you could just hold down Siri, hold down the sign, say, blah, blah, blah.
Yep.
Turn on flashlight, and it turns it on.
Well, that's pretty cool.
So
I never thought of using that.
But we were kind of out in the boonies, which meant it had to get the signal, hear what I said, send it off to the server, come back and tell it to turn.
Yeah.
If it's on device, that would be so much easier and quicker.
Oh yeah. I mean, even in when you're like in the middle of a mall or someplace where you might have a very limited signal, it's going to be
Right.
A great help when you got no signal or something. So some changes to iCloud, account recovery. You can set it up so that you can have a family member somehow recover your account for you if you happen to forget your password. Right. Digital legacy, so you could have it set to I'm not sure what they exactly said about digital legacy, but I mean, it's if you pass away.
Right. That's the biggest problem is a lot of people who, if let's say one spouse passes away and the spouse says, oh, I need to get access to the iCloud account because, I have to start shutting things off and I have to, well, we can't do that. So now you can say, if something happens, that person can get in.
Yeah,
which is necessary, which is nice and necessary.
It'll sure make things a lot easier because I mean I've seen stories about having that kind of a thing set up and I don't think it was anything easy to do. So I'm sure Apple's digital legacy feature will make it a lot easier to do. iCloud Plus. So this is something new that's not going to cost you anymore as long as you have like a subscription to iCloud storage space beyond the free one. And I honestly don't remember what they said about iCloud Plus.
Well, they're basically rebranding iCloud because there's not an iCloud without the Plus anymore.
Oh, okay.
So there is no iCloud and then an advanced they're just calling it iCloud Plus because they're adding in at, like you said, no charge, the hide my email. If you have a security camera with HomeKit, it'll store the video
and it won't
without taking up space. Right. And the private relay, which sounds an awful lot like a VPN without the country hopping feature of VPN.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to say, hey, I want to watch this network, but it's only available in France, you can get a VPN that'll be, oh, you're in France all of a sudden. Well, this won't do that. This won't do this, but it said it will keep you close to where your location is now, but they won't be able to say this came from your device.
Yeah.
Now, how that works with logins and everything, we'll see. But I like the idea that it makes you less traceable.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
If you want to make it.
Yeah. I mean, they really amped up the privacy stuff on here. So you basically covered the rest of those points there. So with health, with mobility, it's going to monitor your movement, balance, and walking steadiness. So even you don't need a watch. You could just have your phone in your pocket, and it's going to measure your steps and if you're wobbly and all this other stuff. So if you start getting a little more wobblier over time, it'll realize that. And it could give you a notification saying, "Hey, your motion steadiness isn't, or your walking steadiness is getting a little erratic. You might want to get checked out because you could be taking a fall or something." That's kind of the idea. Yeah, for sure. Lab data, you could share lab data with your doctor, things like that. Trends, long-term changes in your health. It's going to, if it senses something like, your heart rate changes over the course of a month or something like that, for example, it'll notify you that there's been a change in that, and you might want to get that looked at. Family health sharing. This is interesting because so my wife and I, we both have an Apple Watch, and we have the Series 4, so we got the ones with the ECG and all that stuff. So we got them because we're getting a little older, and it's time to start watching our heart health a little more. And if my heart rate makes a change over, say, a week or so, this is kind of like the walking steadiness, but it will alert her that my heart rate has changed, and she could see this notification and say, say to me, "Hey, your heart rate's changed. Have you not noticed? Maybe you should go get checked out."
That'll be good. That'll be nice.
Yeah, I mean, and I'm sure there's a a whack of other things that it could tell you too. So there's a lot of things that family members can monitor with each other in that respect. Then they jump to watchOS 8, and first thing that I got down is mindfulness. So that's like the Breathe app has always been in there, but they're adding one called Reflect. So it's just to give you the opportunity to take a minute or two just to reflect on things and just kind of calm yourself down, calm your mind. Like if you're having a hectic day, you can just turn on Reflect, and it has some kind of a fancy graphic on your watch go on. And
and it's nice to have something built in. It's nice to have something built in like that. So
I got respiratory rate. I think that's something that's going to be in the health app on the phone, not so much on the watch itself. I'm not sure.
No, well, like I think that's going to, and a lot of this, I think, is laying groundwork for the new watch when it comes out later this year. Because if it is true that they are working on glucose monitoring somehow.
Right. Yeah.
Now, admittedly, they won't be able to have it listed as a medical device because that is a pain in the butt legally to have, because right now the heart rate's one thing, but the EKG, EEG, whatever acronyms you want to use, they have to say this is not medical device. This is only a 2-point thing, blah, 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 blah. We can't detect a heart attack, which it can't. It can only see AFib, which it does well. I actually tested that. But, for respiratory rate, I think that's when you're sleeping to see your breathing rate, how you're breathing that way. And if it's something that they can add on a glucose monitor or something like that, where it's not medical grade, or they can't call it medical grade because, again, legal reasons and regulatory reasons. But it could be something of, hey, we notice that your breathing is a certain way at this time. It's something you may want to talk to your doctor about, type thing. Like the unsteadiness when you're walking with the iPhone. It's like, hey, we notice that your steps are a little unsteady compared to baseline. Therefore, it may be time to talk to the doctor, kind of give someone a nudge in an area.
Yeah. All the stuff that Apple's doing for any aspect of the health, I think, is fantastic. I just have to applaud them on all of it, and I'll embrace any of it too. So next is this is going to be a really cool one. Portraits watch face. So if there's a Photos app on the watch now where you can select certain photos to every time you raise your wrist, it's going to show a different photo. Or if you only have one selected, it'll show the same photo all the time. But in Portraits watch face, it's going to be like, it's going to use portrait mode photos where it will use that depth information to highlight, say, your face or your head. And in behind is going to be the clock, like the digital clock.
Yeah.
Kind of like a magazine cover. Oftentimes they'll put the title of the magazine kind of in behind the people that are on the cover.
Right.
So that's going to be cool. There's a redesigned Photos app going to be on the watch. You'll be able to share photos from the watch. So you'll be able to, in iMessage, if you want to send a photo that you've got on your camera roll, you can find it and attach it to a message and send it off. That's kind of cool. I've never been able to do that before. GIFs or GIFs, however you pronounce it, you'll be able to send those on the watch, similarly to the way you do it on the phone. And going back to the weather, next hour precipitation will be incorporated into the watch as well. Yeah, I mean, especially for if you're out running and say you're doing a half marathon or something, it'd be nice for you to have a little bump on your wrist saying, "Hey, we've got rain coming in the next hour."
Right.
It'll get you to pick up your pace.
Right. Well, no, actually, that happened recently. That last year was just during a run. When I run at lunch, And the Weather Channel does that now. So the Weather Channel app does it, but doing dark sky, I'm sure that tends to be better. But it's like I got a little notice saying, "Hey, we expect rain starting in the next half hour, starting here," and I'm like, "Okay, I'm here. It's going to take. I'm going to cut my run short." Because otherwise I'm not going to make it home before the rain hits. So that's a nice little feature. That's a nice feature. Or if you're out at a picnic and you get a little notice saying works, and I know dark sky's really, really good with, it just won't say rain. It'll say either light rain, heavy rain. It'll give you details. So if you know light showers coming and you're out at a picnic, you're like, okay, well, we can just go from there. But then if it says heavy rain, or something worse, you're like, okay, now we need to start picking up the pace for cleaning up. And that's a nice feature. That's a safety feature.
Yeah, for sure. The home app, like the HomeKit stuff, there's going to be a thing called Home Keys, where you can, if you have the right hardware on your door, you can go up and just hold your phone up to it and it'll open the door or unlock the door. Shared watching on TV. So I guess that's similar to the FaceTime thing where you can share watching of that. Up until now, you haven't been able to use your HomePod Mini connected to your Apple TV as your speaker system. It always required the bigger HomePods.
Right.
So you'd be able to use
no
HomePod
longer
Minis.
have.
Right. Yeah. If you're lucky, you might still be able to get I think the space gray ones are all gone, but I think you might be able to get a white one. But, I have one of each. I have a HomePod up here and I have a Mini downstairs. And I got to tell you, the Mini doesn't sound too bad, for being smaller. It doesn't have the 7 speaker array that the big one does, but yeah, it doesn't sound too bad. So if you put 2 of those together with your TV, if you don't have a good sound system already, that's a pretty good way to go. You're going to be able to use Siri in third-party devices. Now, this one here, I'm not sure. Because
I'm thinking this is, if you're Siri qualified, it basically will connect, the device will connect up to your Apple device through Siri.
Right. Okay. Oh,
so it's not Siri. The Siri won't be. Yeah, the Siri won't be on the on the thermostat, or it won't be on the scale, but they will be able to talk to your Apple devices and use Siri that way.
Right. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. Okay, that's not so bad. Intercom, which they kind of promoted when they announced the HomePod Minis. It's in the Home app on the phone, but now it's going to be in the Home app on the watch. So before you could always receive a intercom message on the watch, or at least get a notification of it, and maybe you had to listen to it on your phone. I'm not sure, because we really don't use that feature that much. But now that it's coming to the watch, it could be interesting because, if I'm out somewhere away from home and I want to send a message to my wife, I can intercom it to the HomePod and she'll be able to hear it. Kind of like the walkie-talkie feature in the watches, but
right, which makes me think, because I don't think anyone uses the walkie-talkie features anymore on the watch. So it's one of those things, you use it once, but in reality, if you have a watch, you probably have an iPhone, so you would just call the person instead of using the walkie-talkie, because at least when I want to call Ruth, I don't want it to be on the speaker on the watch unless I have to. I'd rather it be through my Bluetooth headset. If I'm out, that way no one can hear what she's saying.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Privacy.
So, yeah. So, it'll be interesting to see how that works.
Not all features are home runs. Not all features are home runs.
Yeah, that's right. So, winding down here, we got Mac OS, the new name, Monterey. I'm not sure. I keep meaning to look up how many California places they've used.
Yeah. It's not quite 10 yet. It's not quite 10.
Okay. This got to be like 8 or 9 by now.
You know what? While you're moving on, I will check.
Okay. Anyway, that's the new name. Mac OS is going to have SharePlay, so they're putting everything basically across all the devices, type of thing. Continuity is going to be revamped, faster, probably. Available probably through more devices. One thing that really blew my mind was universal control on the Mac, and the example they showed was an iMac, a MacBook, whether it's the Air or the Pro, but I'm sure it was one of the M1 models, and an iPad. And they had, different things going on each one. And on the MacBook, they used the touchpad to roll the cursor over into the iPad. And when it started, it looked like it kind of hit a wall and then stretched, and then boink, it kind of popped itself through. So that was, so if they're working on, say, a keynote presentation on the iMac, which was 2 devices over from the iPad, they can drag a photo from the iPad. You'll see it go through the MacBook and over into the iMac screen, and then they could drop it into place on the keynote slide. And I thought that was just absolutely mind blowing. Mm-hmm. I didn't see anything about using an iPhone for that feature, which is, I hope they do, because that's all I have now is an iMac and an iPhone. But it would be really cool to see that, to be able to use that for sure. With the Mac, you're going to be able to AirPlay to the Mac. Up to this point, it's been AirPlay to the Apple TV only. So
right,
it'd be kind of nice.
And I'm curious to see how backward compatible that is.
Yeah, for sure. Like, I'm hoping it's not just an M1 thing.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, this will be the 9th California named version.
Oh,
the very first one was Mavericks.
Mm-hmm.
That was 2013.
Wow.
It was OS 10 10.9.
Oh, wow.
And ever since the era, they changed it from OS 10 just to Mac OS. So
right. So run through them there, Dave, real quick.
Okay, so we have Mavericks, Yosemite, mm-hmm. El Capitan. Those were OS 10. Then it changed to Mac OS, to Sierra, High Sierra, Mojave, Catalina, Big Sur, which is the current one, and then Monterey.
Okay.
And Big Sur was the changeover. Catalina was the last 10. That was 10.15, 10.15. Yeah. Big Sur was 11, and Monterey they're calling 12.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that's interesting.
And those, of course, all those are completely arbitrary because OS 10 was the very first. And then, they started to come out with 10.1, 10.2. Then they started to name officially with Panther back in 10.3. That was in 2003. So, but I mean, if you look at OS 10, the original to now, it's similar-ish, but it's so different. I don't think anyone, same thing with the original iPhone OS versus the new iOS.
Yeah.
Enough of it's there.
Yeah, it's crazy all the changes they put through it. So, the next thing is kind of exciting is shortcuts is coming to the Mac. So this will make people like Matthew Castellini just absolutely ecstatic. He's a real amazing shortcuts creator and curator. Safari redesigned tab experience and tab groups. And this is going to really clean up the interface because your address bar is going to be in a tab. And when you change tabs, the address bar automatically goes into the new tab, and the previous tab then shrinks down, type of thing. So it's going to be pretty cool. And on iPhone, the new iOS 15 Safari will have the tab bar at the bottom, and you can swipe through the tabs that way, like left and right, and it'll have the same tab groups and everything as you have on the Mac, and when you open Safari, it'll have the same start pages on the Mac too. So if you have a group of frequently visits websites and things like that on the Mac, you're going to see the same thing on the iPhone.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's pretty cool. And then finally, extensions. Let's see here. Extensions.
Well, so like if you have like a weather channel, it's actually coming. Or it's being expanded where, let's say you can do a weather channel expansion or an Adobe Reader extension where instead of having to open up an external program, you can download this, add it to your browser, which Firefox has tons, Chrome has tons. So, and this will be nice in terms of the extensions will now be, I think, more universal. So you can have extensions on your Safari, in your iPhone, or on your iPad. So that'll be nice. But someone still has a code for that, which is could be a pain in the butt.
Yeah.
So we'll see if that
good extension. You want to know a good extension that's worth getting, and I think it's free. It's called Hush. Have you heard of it?
No, I have not.
What it does is, I've got it on iPhone and on the Mac, and what it does is when you go to a website, you know where it says it always pops up ever since the European Union, what is it, GDPR or whatever it's called.
For privacy.
Yeah, you always get those little pop-ups on a website that says, cookies this, cookies that, blah blah blah. Do you allow it or whatever? Well, this actually makes those so that they don't even show up. It's called Hush. It's a yellow icon.
Hush Nag Blocker.
Yeah, it is so cool. I recommend that to anybody. So anyway, just a little tidbit there. So here's one that you were going to show us here under developer technologies. And this is object capture for 3D content creation. So for those of you who are watching the video, if and when it comes out, I don't want to promise, but we're hoping that it will. This is pretty sweet. So Dave's going to share his screen.
Yep. Let me get Safari up here, and there we go. Now, the idea is that right now, if you want to capture something and make a 3D model out of something, it is a pain in the. Now, this is I don't have experience, but listening to people who have done it, that's a pain in the butt. So the idea now is, and this is taken from the 9 to 5 Mac site. They basically rendered 43 images into a 3D object in the format used for AR content. So if you look on the video I'm sharing,
what they do is they go around and take these pictures, like they circle it, right?
Right. Yeah. And they actually tell you where to stand, which is nice. So they will use augmented reality, and they'll have little places for you to stand. They'll say like, stand here. And it'll say, okay, take picture. Okay, move over here, take picture. So you can get a 3D object. And so basically it takes those 40 images in this case. And on the end, it says here on the entry level M1 MacBook Air, it only took 3 minutes and 43 seconds. And doing it otherwise could take 3 or 4 times as long. And you get a 3D model. Now that is a 3D model. That is not a just an image you're making stitched together. That's an actual model you can then output in an AR package. So now, admittedly, if you're a large company like Wayfair or IKEA, you have teams and teams of people who do that. But this makes it a lot easier if you're not a very large company, and you can do things like, I have a lamp or decorations that I sell, but I want people to be able to see how it fits on their desk. You can take a picture, make the 3D model, and then in an app say, well, here's a model that's already done. So you did the 3D modeling, which again, a lot of times right now, the hard part, that's done. So you can just dump that into the AR package you have, and then put it somewhere.
Yeah, that's going to be really cool.
Apple's been pushing augmented reality for a while. I mean, heavy pushing it for a while.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
This kind of brings it all together. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That's really cool. So just to finish up here, Swift concurrency. I think that's something to do with when you're compiling and you want to. I think if you want to see the results, I think it shows the results of the changes that you made only, or something like that.
But again, we're two non-developers trying to figure this out too. So,
yeah. I mean, wow. Like, if we sound like we're complete fools, well, I mean, that's why, because we don't really know everything that we're talking about here. But just try to point out the things.
The big deal is Xcode in the cloud. That's going to be a big deal. That'll be for teams, for larger teams. Mm-hmm. That will be a big deal where you'll be able to make a change in your code. The rest of the team can see it and run it immediately and not have to, I'm going to run it. Then I'm going to have to save the code, share the code.
Oh yeah.
Now they didn't say pricing. So that'll be interesting how much the pricing is for that.
Yeah, for sure.
So that's the next step. Because that will not be free.
Right. And that's huge for teams. Like,
oh yeah.
I mean, the first team that came to my mind was Halide. You've got 3 people coding from 3 different parts of the United States. And how good is that going to be for those 3 people to be able to, work on something and then have the other 2 to take a look at it, debug it and all this stuff. I mean, it's just going to be a real godsend for coders.
And I think what you're going to see is Xcode in the cloud for now. These are the baby steps that Apple's taking. And the fact that you'll be able to use Swift Playground, which admittedly is not as robust as coding in Xcode, but you'll be able to take Swift Playground on the iPad, make a fully done app, publish it to the App Store from the iPad. So this is the baby step that we will be looking back on in 2 or 3 years and saying, when Apple comes out and says, by the way, with your iPad Pro, you can run Xcode in the cloud on your iPad Pro, and you can do high-level programs. And here's an example of a program that was written that's in the App Store that was programmed and developed completely on the iPad without a Mac.
Yeah.
So
it's going to be huge for developers for sure.
These are baby steps. These are the baby steps, but
yeah. And so the last thing was for the App Store. They're revamping the app product page in app events and a new widget for the App Store. So if you say you're constantly looking at the arcade section of the App Store, you want to see things that pop up, I guess you can make a widget that will do that. Well,
and it looks like, it was a lot of stuff.
It was just, I was almost tired after watching all that stuff because I'm definitely going to have to go back and watch it again to, get more out of it. And I'm going to keep an eye on those little splashes of screen stuff where they show all the little features that they didn't mention and see what can be picked up there. But,
most definitely.
It was a really good WWDC and lots and lots and lots of stuff to be, excited about. Yep. And I said earlier that I wasn't going to put the beta on my phone until I remembered I've got a 10S Max here.
Ooh.
That could very well hold the public beta when it comes out next month.
Yep. Because they're expecting that in July sometime.
Yeah, so I'm going to keep an eye on the stability. I'm not just going to throw it on unless it's somewhat stable, because I don't want it. I don't want a phone that don't work, right? So, I could very well have it on my 10S Max to try some of this stuff out. So I always like to do that so that we could talk about this stuff as it's coming, down the pipeline, right? So, I'm glad I don't have to put it on my daily driver anymore. So
which is not a good idea. Generally not a good idea.
And I used to do that. Last year I did it. The year before I did it. I think I've done it probably, for 3 or 4 years, and was always a little apprehensive about it. But now I can do it carefree, and if something does go wrong, I've still got my 12 Pro Max to. Yep, that's right. Yeah, I could always just wipe it. So that's good. All right. Well, Dave, I think we got through it. And,
Oh,
we were going to talk about stuff that's just photography and camera related, but, we get excited about this stuff. So we kind of, talked a little more in detail about some things. And hopefully it will, be enlightening to some people and get people excited about iOS 15. I know some people aren't always eager to upgrade their operating system, but I'm excited about it.
Yeah. And honestly, if you want to be cautious, you can wait till the 0.1 release. And you're probably not going to, because that normally comes up in the month or two after it's released. And the final one will be released sometime in mid-September, right before the new iPhones come out, because the new iPhones will probably coming out late September, like they always do. Well, outside of last year. But in the last 10 years or so, when they've had the September releases for the phones, they'll have the keynote in early September, then they'll have the pre-orders that Friday, and then everyone will complain that they can't get the phone they want, the color they want, whatever the new color is. Yeah, they always have the new color. It's like, I want the special color, but they don't have enough, and I'm very mad at it. And it's like, you can get it in around 2 weeks. If you wait 2 weeks, it'll be available. Just walk in the store. And then we'll be able to see the new phones and the new features that maybe they're trying to hide a little bit in iOS 15 that only work on the new phones, because there's always something that only works on the new phones.
Oh yeah, and I have a feeling I'm going to stick with my prediction. I'm thinking that the portrait video is going to be the one for this year.
I can see that. I can see that definitely.
But we'll see. So before we go, I have in proper Steve Jobs fashion one more thing. So when I'm excited about this, and when we had Riley Arthur on a couple of months ago, she wrote a book called iPhone Photography for Everyone, iPhone Photojournalism Techniques. And there's her name there. You can get it on Amazon. And so after we finished recording that night, she said, "Oh, you should write a book." And I said, "Oh, I don't know. Like, what would I write about?" And so I said, "Well, if I decide I'll do anything, I'll let you know." And so after sitting on it for about a month or so, I thought about it, and I got back to her and I said, "Look, send me that publisher's information and let me talk to them." So I emailed them and I said that, I explained to them that I had Riley on the show and she did this book, and it's actually part of a series. The series by this publisher is iPhone Photography for Everybody, and then hers is iPhone Photojournalism Techniques. And there's one on black and white. I think there's one on landscape. They've got probably half a dozen or so different iPhone photography books on there. And I've decided I'm going to do one on macro techniques. So I'm working on it. And if I don't post a lot of pictures on social media, it's probably because I'm stuck behind a keyboard, and I'm working on this book, and I'm pretty excited about it. So it should be out sometime in the fall, I would think. And it's going to be about that thick, probably.
Okay.
Roughly about that thick. So it's not going to be a huge book, but like Riley's is 128 pages. And, so mine will probably hopefully be at least that thick. And, I'm excited about it, and just thought I'd just kind of throw that out there because I asked the publisher, I said, "Well, when can I start talking about this?" And they said, "Oh yeah, go ahead, talk about it all you want." So I'm throwing it out there, and
there we go.
I'm gonna do it.
And it's exciting. That is so exciting.
It is. It's probably I guess,
and terrifying, but exciting.
Oh yeah, for sure. Because they haven't received any of my chapters yet, and I'm just waiting to see what they send back and what do I got to fix. But it's probably my most accomplished thing that I've ever done with my photography. So I haven't had an actual genuine museum display or anything like that. Like our camera club had a little display in the local museum here, but I mean, I don't think my work is worthy of going into a national museum or whatever. So this is going to be, this is going to be the cat's meow for me, I would say. So I guess that's it, Dave. That's I guess we got ourselves a show. Tell everybody where you can find you.
Sure. You can find me on Instagram and Twitter as ProfPod. I am part of the I'm in part of the group in MeWe as Dave Podnar, and on Facebook the iPhoneography group as Dave Podnar also, or Dave Podnar Jr. Because my dad updated his name and people were confusing us.
Okay, good. So yeah, you can find me on Instagram at Macmillan Photo, Macmillan_photo on Twitter, and I'm in the Tiny Shutter group on Facebook, just as my name, Greg McMillan. And where else? The MeWe group is it's the Artful iPhoneography community, and you can get there by going to artfulipc.club. And we've got a little over 80 members there. So you're always welcome to join us and see what we do over there. This show, we try to do it every 2 weeks, and this one I'm hoping to get out, on time. Again, this is our first video show, and I don't know when, I'm hoping when we'll get that on YouTube, but to be quite honest, I've got to make an account for it. So I got a little bit of work to do there. But that's all. It doesn't take long to make an account on with Gmail and all that stuff. So yeah. But you can get the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Anchor, iHeartRadio, Spotify, just about anywhere where you can get a podcast. You can probably find us. Just type in iPhoneography podcast and you'll find us. And I guess that's it, Dave. Thanks for helping out with all this WWDC stuff. And,
always fun to do a deep dive.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Oh, and on the next show, so on the last show, when I wasn't able to make it, Dave and Matt Hoffman talked about macro. And that was the first in a series of podcasts that we're going to do on the different camera types that are available on the iPhone. Macro was kind of a special thing because it takes a lens or, Camera Plus 2 has a macro setting in it that you can use. But we're going to dive into the other types of cameras and, what you could do with them, how they work and things like that. So I think the next time we're probably going to go into the wide angle, which is like the main camera on the iPhone. And we'll talk about that for a bit. And thanks everybody for listening, and we'll see you on the next one.
Have a good week, everyone.
Bye-bye.